Hello again. Now, the fourth industrial revolution has been touted for years now. And after the COVID-19 pandemic, people are being challenged more than ever to use technology, for example, in changing the way they work. To this end, global consulting firm Kearney conducted research surveying more than 700 top executives globally to find out what the future of business looks like. So what is this future? Well, I'm joined now by Sujeet Morar, a partner at Kearney, to shed more light on what they are calling a regenerative approach to doing business. Sujeet, welcome to today, and thank you very much for your time. Just first up, an overriding question. Why did you decide to do this survey?
So I think interestingly, over the past few years, I think we've learned a lot, right, around being resilient, reacting to pandemics, geopolitical changes, and being able to be responsive to what's actually going on in the market. And I think it's almost crisis thinking, if you will. It's kind of led to the way we kind of react to the market at the moment. And I think for us, we were thinking through, there's a different narrative, one about being more forward-looking, more optimistic, being a little more bold. And we wanted to test this with executives around the world and understand what does it mean for their businesses. And effectively, we're talking about regeneration. It's a different sort of narrative and mindset that we wanted to discuss and test with this group of executives.
We'll try and get an understanding of what that looks like. But first, just your numbers, what your survey told you. I mean, you more than 700 top executives globally, and more than half of them saying that their current business transformations are not working.
Yeah. So I think, when you look at business transformations, I think they require sustained effort, usually over an extended period of time. Sometimes there's lots of many small discrete ones that are ongoing. And I think managing the trade-offs between all of those are quite a bit of a challenge. And then I think you also have to manage the internal and external expectations of the people around you, your staff, but also the communities and societies at large as well.
Yeah, you said because of COVID-19 pandemic, we've had a lot of focus on resilience, but now the new perspective is that of regeneration. What is a regenerative culture? What does it look like?
So when we tested this with all the executives, it kind of boiled down to like three main areas predominantly. One being around operations, so effectively rethinking business models, adapting your supply chain. And by that we mean, how do you partner better with suppliers, with governments, with those communities around you? The second bucket was around, people, the culture. How do you support those that are bold and willing to take a different stance and be able to push the change that's needed? And the third one was around thinking through how to invest in enablers, so whether it be technology or analytics or the rest of it, that actually, turbocharges and enhances the way you're able to respond and manage your business. So those are the kind of themes that were coming out from our engagement with various executives as well.
Yeah, I mean, business transformation is all about systems. It's all about the processes, your operating models. And you, with those 800, I think it's about 800 C-suite business leaders from across the globe you spoke to, they are open, according to your study, to embrace this new way. I just wonder, did you pick up what's holding them back from regenerating?
So I think it is about thinking differently, and the opportunity to do it. I think it varied a little bit depending on the industry that they came from. So let's take sort of energy as an example. The big elements around it were around sort of sustainability, investing it and driving that sort of level and culture and the need to make the change. Whereas if you looked at consumer goods as an example, there it was very much around customer experience, using analytics better, embedding sustainability in the way they operate. So it did vary a bit in terms of what was holding them back by industry, given the sort of challenges as well. And I think regional dynamics also played a bit of a role as well. Because we saw some regions, execs believing that more on the road to being regenerative, whereas others being a little more conservative in a way as well.
Okay, those two areas I would like to talk to next, about industries first and the regions next. Let's start with the industries. So which industries are seemingly leading the way?
So I think it would be from different aspects, though. I think it's hard to say where they're all kind of leading, you know. So I think many of them were kind of above average, but I think if you had to look at sort of the analytics and the investments in some of those enablers, perhaps more from a telecommunications or consumer goods probably leading the way there. Whereas if we looked at areas like transport and logistics, or even in the energy and process side of the industries, their belief was they needed to invest more, and there was a lot more opportunity in those spaces as well. So it's hard to pick a specific leader, but I think they all have elements where they're perhaps doing a little better than maybe some of their peers as well.
Yeah, because it's all really about creating a future that works for everyone. And from what you've said, you've mentioned the consumers. Therefore, I would guess things like the retail sector would be important. And we're all dealing with an energy crisis. One would hope that the energy sector is also open to a new way.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, even if you looked at our big sort of energy players or mining players, I think the role that they have to play in the societies and the communities in which they operate is huge, right? So beyond the commitment to their staff and their employees, it's the choices and what they do has a huge impact on those communities around them. And to the point is, it's how do you benefit to the benefit of everyone, and broader than just.
And finally, regionally, you mentioned there were some regional nuances. I mean, if you look at the responses from these C-suite executives, 800 of them, you look at our continent, Africa, and compared to the other parts, the Americas and stuff, what were the differences there? What did you see? For example, what did the people in the continent tell you?
So I think one of the differences, I guess, maybe a little more conservative in terms of where they are and how much there is still left to do. So as an example, I think the Middle East respondents kind of stood out in terms of seeing themselves further along the journey, whereas we saw, you know, spaces like Africa as an example, or Europe as well, seeing a lot more opportunity and a lot more needed to be done. I think if we bring it to kind of a local context, I think what we have seen, you know, the ability to sustain the effort and investment over an extended period has been a bit of a challenge. I think, you know, the constant sort of economic challenges and the rest and what it does to employees and internal culture are perhaps a little different to what our counterparts have to deal with in maybe the US or Europe as well.
Yeah, I guess Africa has to embrace this, and South Africa particularly. We need to move to quite quickly from being responding all the time, to regenerate ourselves. Thank you very much, Sujeet Morar, a partner at Kearney, here on Today, eNCA DSTV channel 403.